Right, Parish Magazine. Discussed this briefly at the last meeting, and a working party was set up under the chairmanship of Linda, together with 4 other parish councillors, and they met with the editors, and a summary of the meeting has been circulated and hand over to Linda.
Can I just say, first of all, I was just a bit concerned at the last parish council meeting that 3 parish councillors were actually asked by yourself to be on this working party, and only 1 parish councillor volunteered herself. I'm afraid the meeting was very negative, because it was very evident that 3 parish councillors had a pre-meet or pre-discussion, and Councillor John and myself were excluded from that. Councillor Jenkins actually came to the meeting wanting to talk about ownership. And the reason for this meeting was actually to look at the way forward for the community, the magazine, which is a community asset. And I'll say he thought that this was about talking about ownership of the magazine. It was also very negative because, well, at least 3 times Councillor Jenkins said that he thought that Councillor Hargrave was the owner of the magazine, which is not the case. It was a bit intimidating, and although the working party was set on time limited, I just felt that this meeting, because of negativity, we weren't able to get on. One of the ideas we were looking at was the formation of a community interest company. This would protect the magazine for the future, because who knows what's going to happen in the future. We also talked about the new legislation and regulations coming in now. If the parish council was to own the magazine, as we were told it did, that would make you would not be able to publish a lot of things that are published now. So there was various points throughout the meeting. It was all about the ownership of the magazine. We were trying to get it to move forward, to actually look at how we could keep the magazine, to make sure that the magazine was protected. The editors are keen to evolve the magazine. And then Councillor Jenkins said, we'll put a proposal that to today's meeting that the parish council owns the magazine. I don't think that's right to do, because as far as I'm concerned, we still have to have more meetings to discuss this further and find a way forward.
I agree totally with Linda on that one. There was going to be no way forward at that meeting. It wasn't open.
I think we should hear both sides actually first.
We will, probably.
So it seemed to me that we were a working party of a certain number of people, and there were 2 opinions which were so different that there was no question of ever coming to agreement. It doesn't matter how many meetings we have, as long as we all maintain our positions, then we would never come to an agreement. So it seemed to me that the usual way in a working party, what you do then is to produce 2 different proposals, and it is for the parish council as a whole to vote on the proposals. It seemed to me that we have met, we tried to agree, we couldn't. There are 2 conflicting views. Let us each, whole parish council, have a vote, and then the thing is settled. I find nothing odd about that at all. We've done it many, many times before. And so I call mine Resolution 1. It can be Resolution 2 if Linda would like to present Resolution 1.
As I said, I don't think that at this stage we can actually put proposals forward. And you say we didn't come to agreement. You are not prepared to listen as to how we can actually make sure the magazine is for the village. It is a village magazine. Yet there was this constant. It's owned by the parish council.
All we have the proposals.
Well, should I? I mean, I've written quite a long.
Do you want to start with your proposals first?
Would you like to start with yours?
Yeah.
one of the, we were just sort of looking for ideas, and one idea that was put forward was having the magazine as a community interest company, which sounds like a good idea. It would need further research. As a result of having a community interest company, there would be a board set up. You could have parish councillors on there. You could have any members of, the village, plus the editors of the magazine. That then would help protect the magazine for the future. And it is a village magazine. We don't know what's going to happen next year. A government could come in and say, we'll ban all the parish councils. If that happens, you've then lost the magazine. We don't know what's going to happen. And there's been a lot of, as you said, all you kept on about was that the parish council own the magazine. I don't see how we can say that the parish council owns the magazine.
Okay.
There were others on there at that meeting, and I think we see it slightly differently. What you said about Gerald mentioning about the ownership, I think it was twice, not more than that. And you then did put forward a proposal, which we discussed. All right, let's call it an idea. You put forward an idea that you'd investigated and researched, which we listened to, and then you listened to our idea. And as Gerald said, we had two very different ideas, proposals, whatever you want to call them, and we can have meeting after meeting for the next 10 years, and we may not move forward, which is why it needs to come to this forum for further discussion.
Excuse me. Jill, what was the view of the four editors of the magazine at the meeting?
The four editors of the magazine, quite rightly, had the same idea that Linda had, which is, there's nothing wrong. It wouldn't have mattered whether there were 5 or 6 people.
They're the people that produced the magazine and put time and effort into it, and have done for a number of years.
Yeah.
So, why are you the person that decides what happens with it?
I'm not.
Or why
None
is
of
this
us are.
council?
Well,
because I think
what we were
the
doing
council
was
owns the magazine.
Oh, do they? Okay. Right.
And I think that's what we're voting on. The question of
how
whether
can we vote on whether we own something or not? We either do or we don't.
The question of whether who owns the magazine, which Linda said was absolutely not what we were to discuss.
Yeah.
Is absolutely what we were to discuss.
Is it?
What Linda's suggesting is that a community interest company owns the magazine for the community.
Well, I thought this was an idea of a way forward. Perhaps I've misunderstood the papers, but when I read them, they said a way forward for the Stradbroke Monthly. What I thought that was is a way of trying to look at what should happen to the Stradbroke Monthly as a village magazine, forward from this day, because that magazine was formed in 1980. I don't know whether you know this, but in 1980, Les Carter, who was somebody who lived in Stradbroke, was a Stradbroke Parish councillor, founded the magazine under the auspices of the council, and the magazine's operated in exactly the same way. It's been funded by advertising, the editorship's passed from editor to editor, and there's never been any suggestion that there's any kind of an issue with ownership up until literally about 2 months ago or something, when some strange idea seems to have circulated that I want something to do with owning the magazine. Now, I just want to be absolutely clear about it. People might find this really funny, but also, I'd like to finish what I'm saying, please. Could the chairman allow me to complete what I'm saying?
Hang on, there's done this
Thanks.
I don't think James has ever claimed that he owns the magazine, but he's always claimed the parish council doesn't. It's a slight difference.
I haven't actually claimed any of those things. I haven't finished what I'm saying, so no, Peter, no. I'd like to finish.
Then Ollie's wants to speak after that.
But basically, it's annoying being interrupted because you kind of lose what you're saying, which I think we should perhaps respect. So, well, that's funny.
Hang on, people.
Is there a reason that's funny? I'm trying to say something. I'm allowed to say something, and the point that I'm trying to make about the magazine, right, is that I don't have any interest in the magazine or owning it. To be perfectly honest with you, I'll be absolutely honest with everybody in the room. I'm a bit embarrassed about this, but I don't even read it most of the time. I only mention things about the magazine for one reason alone. That is because I believe that people who spend their time and their efforts working on something should be the people that control it, not people that sit in this council. And actually, normally, no one, up until recently, people didn't even come to watch what we did. That's the reason why I mentioned anything about the magazine. I have no interest in it. I don't want to own it. I don't even want to have anything to do with it. I've occasionally written the odd article. That's it. And that's the end of my involvement. And anyone who wants to smile and laugh and think that's funny, that's okay. But that's the actual position about it.
Have you shown absolutely no interest in anything to do with the magazine? Then?
I've shown a lot of interest in making sure, as a councillor, that this council does not traipse over the views of the 4 people who edit that magazine. That's been my entire interest. I have no personal interest whatsoever. My interest is that the people who do something, like for example the people that run the Stradbroke Charitable Trust, like for example the people that run the allotments, like for example the people that run the courthouse, like for example people that do SAS, like for example everything else that people do in this village. Those people who do those things should be the people that decide what happens. And for all of those other things, this council doesn't try and tell them what to do. And the reason why I've raised an interest in this is because I don't think that this council ought to be here telling people, and you know, the fact that we have a proposal which all 4 of the editors are against, brought to this council, you know, and now I'm really pleased that we've got a camera recording us here, because otherwise we'd all be able to sit in this room and make a decision to take over the magazine, sack the editors of that magazine and replace them with other people without anybody knowing. But we can't do that tonight, because if we do make that decision, everyone's going to know we've done it.
Right.
I haven't actually had the other proposal yet.
Yeah, so
Can I just say what I was going to say first?
Yeah.
None of us would have been taught anything about the magazine whatsoever if what 2 people sent in asked to be printed wasn't printed. And I said that was the wrong thing. What we should have, if that goes in and the editors don't like it, they should come to parish council and say, look, this has been put in here, I don't want to print it because I think it's wrong. But they should always print.
Freedom of speech is really important, Peter, isn't it? Yeah.
Pardon?
Freedom of speech is really,
It is important,
really
yes,
important.
it is, yeah.
Editors must have some degree of flexibility.
Absolutely. But if they're not having any, they come see us and we say, yes, that's okay, print it. And they have to print it. They know it's supposed to edit it, or they print it.
Thank you, Peter.
Editors.
Can I just say,
to the public,
in response to that, I did ask for some of the articles where there's been a lot of controversy about why they didn't print it. I have seen them, and actually they were right not to print them. In fact, one of the articles was sent back to the author to amend, to take out certain paragraphs, which was done, and the article was printed in the end. And that is what the editors will do.
Yeah, but there's been 2 in them.
Well, they must have had a reason.
It doesn't stop there. It goes back a long, long way.
This is not about...
To when, Peter, sorry?
Right, hang on.
To when we used to have the...
Peter, thank you.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
So shall I
say the
Yeah, I think
I've made the resolution quite long because it's very important that it's clear.
Sorry, can I just raise a point of order? If there's to be a resolution in writing about the magazine, first of all, I still contend, in accordance with the standing orders, it should be circulated prior to the commencement of the meeting. I'd like the clerk's comment on that. If it isn't, I'd like the meeting adjourned so copies could be made of a one-side page A4 resolution, which Councillor Jenkins appears to have in front of him. Because if we're going to vote on a resolution, the very least that we deserve and give to this village is that we actually read that resolution properly and understand what it is. And if it's so long, I think we need some time to look at it and consider it. I don't know what you think, Carol.
I promise to read it very clearly and very slowly.
No, that's not what I asked, Gerald. I asked Carol for some advice.
And actually, as chair, I actually object to this, because I was chair of that working party, and I feel you just come in and for your own agenda.
Shall I read?
I've raised a point of order.
I was the chair of that.
Mr. Chairman, I've raised a point of order. Can the point of order be dealt with first? Because if it's not in order for a resolution like this to come before this meeting, it needs to be withdrawn, given to us in writing prior to the next meeting, and then we can discuss it at the next meeting. That's what I'm suggesting. Well, I don't agree with that interpretation of the standing orders.
Can I just say, I don't, in all the history of the parish council, Nick and I joined at the same time, I think nearly 28 years ago, rather than 24. But in fact, I don't ever remember a resolution having come forward in writing.
But do you know
to a
what,
parish
Stuart?
council.
I think that we should have resolutions in writing, because my involvement in public life as a school governor, we wouldn't pass a resolution and we wouldn't be allowed to unless that resolution was on the agenda and clearly distributed prior to that meeting in writing. It's really poor practice, and as you know, as a Mid-Suffolk District Councillor, all the resolutions that Mid-Suffolk District Council has are all put onto there, and they're all circulated in advance and made available in advance. The reason for that is that's fair, and it's not fair and undemocratic for this council to make a decision on a resolution that none of us as councillors and none of the members of the public watching this meeting have had the chance to look at. I think it's just a travesty of democracy. No, I'd like to be considerate.
Hang on, a point of order has been raised. I'm just going to ask
Sorry,
the
my
clerk
apologies.
to ask her comments on that.
Right. Under section 9b of the standing orders, no motion may be moved at a meeting unless it is on the agenda, and the mover has given written notice of its wording to the proper officer at least 7 clear days before the meeting. Clear days do not include the day of the notice or the day of the meeting. So I would say that although the item is on the agenda under the heading of Parish Magazine, and it is not concerning cost, it is a moot point. But I take the fact that the chairman of the working party isn't content with this. I see no reason why the resolution should not be read. And I think, much as it would be nice to clear things up and finish this at this meeting, I don't think it's going to work. I think it's going to happen. It should be read, and then I think it should be circulated. It should be voted on for next meeting.
Right. Clerk's advice is that the Gerald's resolution can be read. We've then got that and any other proposal to do with the magazine can be circulated to all parish councillors before the next meeting, and at that meeting they can all the agenda items and be voted on. Gerald, do you want to read your proposal?
Yes. So I called it Resolution 1, Clarification of the Ownership of the Stradbroke Monthly. The Stradbroke Monthly is a monthly publication that is published by an editorial team of currently 4 residents on behalf of Stradbroke Parish Council. It is sent out free of charge to every house within the parish of Stradbroke and is financed by the proceeds of the advertising revenue which is collected by Stradbroke Parish Council. The parish clerk receives part of her salary in return for overseeing this aspect, and also the physical distribution of the magazine. Formerly, the parish council paid for the paper and ink, for the paper copies, and for the upkeep, maintenance and replacement of any machines needed to print it. At the moment, a commercial printer is used and the parish council pays the invoice. All labour for editing and layout is provided free of charge by volunteers. A further group of unpaid volunteers sees to the distribution of the paper magazines to each individual household in the village. Following some recent disputes and challenges to the ownership of the magazine, the parish council has obtained legal advice that it is indeed the first owner of the magazine and always has been. However, because no written agreement with the unpaid volunteer editors exists, it is not strictly clear in law whether the copyright in the articles belong to the original writer, the editors, or the publishers, the parish council. In order to clear up this slight uncertainty about copyright, the parish council, in its role of first owner, asserts that as from August the 11th, 2014, today, all copyright in all articles published in the Stradbroke Monthly, including the use of the name the Stradbroke Monthly, is invested in the parish council and the parish council alone. This requires a majority vote at this evening's meeting. After this date, anyone who writes articles or helps with the production and distribution of the Stradbroke Monthly is deemed to have accepted that all copyright now lies with the parish council. It is expected that editors will work in a fair and unbiased manner, encouraging all kinds of opinions and views within the village to be aired. Of course, editors must edit, and their decisions would normally be final. but there may be cases where a contributor disputes their decision. Where this cannot be resolved by discussions with the person who has submitted the article, then it should be refused and referred to the next parish council meeting for a decision. That decision will be determined by a majority vote. It is sincerely hoped that some or all of the present editors will wish to continue with their valuable and much appreciated contribution to village life after this date. They will be subject to the same terms as the volunteers who may come forward and would have to apply to sign the new Volunteer Editors Agreement. It would indeed be sad to lose any of them, but if they choose not to continue, then that has to be their choice. The September magazine will be published before the end of August by the Parish Council and will be the first to be published under the terms of this clarification.
Well, as we can't actually take a vote on it, so some of that is null and void, but everybody's got the gist of the principle.
Yeah, can I just start? Yeah. Why, as the parish council, do you want ownership and control of the magazine?
What better place for the ownership to be rather than a community interest company? Is you're saying would be owned? You know, the magazine would be owned by the village. But what better place to have the magazine than the parish council, which is accountable to the village anyway?
But we're all elected by the village, aren't we?
So should we perhaps get the national press to be accountable to the government then? Do you see a problem with that?
And under copyright.
Or perhaps the East Anglian Daily Times should be published by Suffolk County Council? Same thing. Exactly the same thing. I don't see how you think it's any different.
So can we not vote on this tonight then?
No, it's fine.
No, we can't vote on it. No,
Linda,
I was going to say, under copyright law, actually the authors have the copyright. Parish council is not having that right.
It will.
It won't.
Because
under copyright law, it is the author.
We're not
Can
talking
I
about the owner.
Can I just explain? Because I've spent 20 years of my life with a publishing company. Because I know you've got that, but that is the way publishing. The way publishing works is that the person who writes an article has the copyright. Absolutely, yes. You create the copyright by writing the article. You then assign your article to someone in order to publish it. And well,
the law doesn't say you have to assign it.
No, but you can publish it to someone else. But a parish council magazine would have all its authors and all of its articles, and any editors who have changed an article create copyright by changing an article. But if it's to be published by a parish council, then all that copyright, because in a way, simply because there is a motion that says it does. I had a company, and we had authors from all over the world who wrote books for us. We published their works. We paid them royalties.
This is a magazine.
This is the same case.
Gerald, you said that. You did what? Sorry, there's something really important in what you did with those people.
No,
that's really different. What did you do with them? Sorry.
Yeah. This was
you paid them royalties.
This was a commercial arrangement.
Yes, but we're not selling the parish.
We're not selling the magazine, so the royalties are zero. I mean, simple as that.
I just think it's a shame.
Why do you want control? This is like
a
Soviet magazine.
I don't want control myself, but I think the parish council is a democratic body that is the ultimate control.
But with the new laws and regulations coming in, you will not be allowed to publish a lot of the stuff that's published now.
Well, in which case we have to find a way of doing it otherwise. Let's wait
Hang on, stop this.
Well, I just think it's a shame. I've lived in this village longer than some and not as long as others. And that magazine used to land on the carpet every week, no fuss, no worry. And now we seem to be splitting the village, splitting the parish council. Yeah. Yeah. And I personally feel we've got to get our act together and get this sorted. I don't know who agrees with me, but
what's the argument? The magazine's been fine for years. We should stop discussing it. We should be discussing things that matter.
Then we leave it as it is.
Then let's leave it as it is then.
Yeah.
Let's leave it as it is then. What's the problem with the way it is now?
George.
What's so funny about James?
I'm not laughing.
George.
I thought a lot of his arguments stemmed from whether or not it was published on a website or two. I thought it wasn't to do, well, ownership is something to do with it, but it all started when it was refused to be put on a website.
I think James had a good idea. Half the people don't look at it anyhow, so what are we arguing over? And they don't.
But the issue of the website has been sorted out. It was based upon a real complete misunderstanding. The Stradbroke Monthly is available. It's on Issue, which is a publishing platform, and anybody can embed it anywhere they like on the internet. You can put it on Facebook, you can put it on your website if you run a website, and there is nothing stopping anyone embedding it. So the issue that there was about putting things on the stradbroke.info website just doesn't exist because that's sorted out. So you're right, that is the issue. So why are we still arguing about it?
Yeah. What I was going to say, so why is ownership an issue?
I don't know.
Why is it an issue?
Let's have a vote and clear it up.
Maybe I'm stupid or something.
Ownership has become an issue when various people have said that the parish council don't own it. I think that is where the issue has arisen. As far as I'm concerned, the parish council's paid the invoices, collected all the monies from the advertisers and everything else for the past 35 odd years. And I think the previous editors, and including all the past parish council and not the present ones, always considered it to be owned by the parish council for the benefit of the village. It's when people start saying you don't own it, that's when hackles have started to rise, and this is where the problems started.
Next slide. Can I just raise an issue? A minute ago, Jill just said let's wait for the proposals about what happens about parish council ownership to appear. Well, they were published by the Communities Department on the 31st of March 2011 by the Code of Recommended Practice on Local Authority Publicity. And the thing is, right, there's a big direction of travel now. And I don't say I don't actually agree with it, actually, personally, but basically, there's lots of restrictions now on what happens if something's published by a public authority, like a public parish council. You're only allowed to publish it so often. You're only allowed to put certain things in. You can't publish some things at election time. There's here, I've got on here 6 pages with 35 clauses of rules about what you are and aren't allowed to do. And the thing is, right, Eric Pickles issued this in 2011, and because of the fact that councils were just ignoring it, it applies to websites and it applies to magazines and everything else. Because they were ignoring it, he's now taken powers. Even though it's still called the Code of Recommended Practice, Eric Pickles can force it to be enforced on councils. So that's one of the reasons why there's now been a discussion about ownership for the magazine, because there are, going forward, some disadvantages to us as a council if we do own a magazine. I went and spoke to a publisher and a friend of mine who worked in journalism for many, many years, who's in Debenham, and he said to me, well, if parish council would be mad to want to own a magazine now with the direction of travel. And so I think those are the things that I was hoping that the working group would be looking at and come back and say, yeah, we've looked at the code, we think that if we had it, these things would be impacted and all that kind of thing.
You sound like you were actually at the working party meeting.
No, I wasn't.
Because they are exactly the same issues that were raised at the working party meeting, and it's almost the same words that were used at the working party meeting. The words that you've just used.
Which was what?
Talking about all the legislation and...
That's what's happened, Stuart. I've got the code in front of me. All I'm doing is explaining the situation, right, about that, and about what's happening with that piece of legislation. It's not that I've introduced this code, or in fact I said actually I don't actually agree with it as it happens, but the code is there and we have to do something about it. So I don't really get that.
Mr. Chairman, I shouldn't end the time on this. We can just clear it up with one vote and be done, get on with something which we're actually here for. And I think that's what we should do. But obviously for some reason we can't vote, so let's push on to the next thing.
This is a major issue that would affect the whole village. There are lots of conflicting views from both sides. Should we ask the two sides to circulate all their proposals, and then we have an extraordinary meeting to discuss one item agenda, which is the parish magazine, and we can then discuss it, vote on it, and then hopefully move forward.
Yeah.
Linda, are you happy with that, or? Any comments or?
Well, hasn't.
I think we've been railroaded into this.
Wasn't there a discussion that there's a further discussion about it? And we've already accepted that no one's going to agree about this, have we? Even without bothering to look into it properly.
Well, let's have an extraordinary meeting and we can discuss it there.
Yeah. Well, say we've got two proposals, none of which. Well, you haven't proposed. There's Gerald has come up with a proposal. That there's the community CIC.
I don't think you're being fair to Linda, actually. You asked her to chair a meeting. She offered to do it. Yeah. We have one meeting, which was completely, well, but as both sides have said, it seems to be pointless having any more meetings because you know, the people that actually went on that committee, they didn't nominate themselves. Gerald said in an email, these people should be on it, and you proposed it without asking the rest of us.
But perhaps if the committee is not able to come up with a sensible proposal, we should ask the members that we place the people that could.
That can be on both sides?
I don't know what you mean by both sides.
I don't think the editors would have to be changed as well as the parish council would be changed.
You can't change the editors because they are the editors.
The editors representatives then?
So there are 4 editors and there were all 4 there, so how could you change that?
Well, you couldn't, it's not possible, wouldn't it?
Right.
Why don't we have a circulated proposals and actually digest it properly with time, have an extra meeting, I think it's going to go on so it's we'll take it separately.
I think you really need to do some more research if the parish councils own a magazine.
Well, that's your opinion.
Well, can I suggest, if we can have an extraordinary meeting, can I suggest, sorry, if we have to have an extraordinary meeting, that enough time is left prior to the commencement and the date for that meeting for all the people to seek proper advice on this issue and to get the information that's required. Otherwise, it seems like what's happening here is an attempt to railroad a decision through the council because someone's decided they think they're just going to get a majority on it today. Yeah, that's not the right thing to do. We need to be able to give everyone a fair account.
I wasn't going to propose a meeting next week.
That's all right. I was just asking.
I was going to make sure everybody had plenty of time to study both proposals or whatever proposals put towards the council, and we can make a proper decision on it. Stuart.
Chairman, yes, I've sat here quite quietly listening to all this, and it seems to me that each time we discuss this issue, over the months, the last recent months, each time the goalposts seem to be moved, and it seems to be some of the problem. Now, I understand from tonight that one of the issues, which was how the website, how the monthly could be reproduced on the 2 websites, has now been resolved. We find, whilst there was some concern about that a couple of months ago. And now it seems as though there's no problem publishing it on either website or anywhere else come to that. So haven't most of the issues now actually been resolved one way or another? Aren't we in a situation almost now where we could just forget about the whole thing and go back to just where we were at the beginning?
Well, that would be quite a good idea.
I mean, what are we fighting about now? That's what I don't really understand.
Well, what are we fighting about? And why can't we just continue the magazine?
I think one of the issues that seems to be raising is always ownership. Do we need to resolve the ownership issue?
Well, what about the wisdom of Solomon, eh?
I think the major problem is all of this, isn't it? All of this arguing is ridiculous.
Let's just not do it then. Let's go back and have the magazine as it has been for, since 1980. The editors edit it, everyone else produces it, and we don't start an argument about who owns it.
And will they print what's been sent to them?
They can't print things like that.
At times there's things which have nothing to do with anything being wrong which are not printed.
Like what?
I can tell if you want.
Well, yeah,
I had
as linked to the magazine, I am sent all the emails and all the articles that are sent. All right?
Yep.
That the editors have been open, transparent. I see everything that comes through. Should there be concern about an article, whether it needs publishing or not, they have concerns about it, I can advise them.
Well, for 6 years we held a fate, don't mind, photographs were taken on the first year, and they were all published. The other 3 years they won't be published, and I got very cross about this, so I had word with Annie when dear old Annie was still alive, and Annie said, well, I'll sort that out, and she did. They were published, put on the website, and the very next
and you just said the website.
The magazine. There was bits in the magazine, the small bits of magazine, and the magazine was then that was ignored, and that was only on once, and that was it.
Okay, can I suggest then that we move forward, forget about what's happened in the past, just move forward, let the 4 editors edit the magazine and carry on as they have been. There's the link from the parish council. As I said, I have all the articles that are sent to them, and I review them as well.
So technically they are reviewed by the parish council, aren't they?
I'm the link, yeah. But that's been a recent thing, yeah. That's a recent thing.
In the past, when Annie was here, who was the chair, right, Annie was the person that went along. But the thing was, there's a real difference between a member of the council helping and advising the editors and bringing an article to a council and getting them to vote as to whether they should. Because that starts to look like, the council is deciding what's in the magazine, and that's where I think there's a problem. So I think with what Linda was saying, you've got that balance there, and we wouldn't have been having these discussions back when Annie was the link for the magazine, would we? Because there was no issue, and we didn't have anyone for quite a while that looked after the magazine. And now we've got Linda. My view is we should give Linda a chance to do her job as the representative. And if there are any concerns, people can go to her and bring it back to the council. I don't think we need to have an argument either way about who owns what. And
so you want to drop this idea of a charitable trust, CIC or whatever? In order for it to,
I just think the editors want to get on with editing the magazine. I think the past few months they have been put through a lot of uncertainty, and I think we need to move forward, and perhaps is letting the editors get on with their job.
I mean, it might be something that it might be an idea for the moment to go back to the way the magazine has been produced forever. If at some point in the future there's other ideas about it, that's something that the council can discuss and that the editors could discuss. But yeah, I think exactly what you said should happen. We should leave the magazine the way it has always been.
So under the umbrella of the parish council?
Under the auspices of the parish council, which is what, I've got the first issue of the Stradbroke Monthly in front of me, and it says this is the first issue. It is published under the auspices of the parish council. We're financing the contributions by that. It's free to everybody. That was June 1980.
Which is basically what Gerald has just read out.
No.
The fact that
it really is.
The opening sentences.
Well, the opening sentences, yeah, but the bit at the end about making contracts and things like that.
No, the word contract wasn't used.
Well, agreements.
And what's wrong with an agreement?
There's nothing wrong with an agreement, but we've had no agreements since 1980 and we haven't needed them.
I thought we were looking for the way forward for development.
I think some people are.
Sorry, Maureen, did you say?
I think some people are looking for the way forward, but other people aren't.
Do we let the magazine carry on?
It's available on both websites.
It can be embedded onto stradbroke.info.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, sorry, James.
Sorry, my apologies. Just answer your question. The website. Sorry, the website. The magazine is honest, so it can be put onto any website. And I know that Don has received instructions for how it can be put onto stradbroke.info.
So it can be published exactly the same way.
And the way it's published on stradbroke.org.uk is stradbroke.org.uk embeds it from issue. Right. It's published separately at stradbrokemonthly.co.uk.
Will the submissions policy then be updated to not include and have to credit stradbroke.org?
Doesn't say that.
I think the 2014 submissions policy says that you have to credit Stradbroke.org.
It said the Stradbroke Monthly. I don't know if it says Stradbroke.org.uk. If it did, that I don't know. I didn't write it, so I haven't got a clue. But why would it want to credit Stradbroke.org.uk? Because
I've no idea. But
it's got nothing to do with Stradbroke.org. Well, I'll have a look and see if it is. I think I've got it somewhere. Submissions policy. Yeah.
Right. So I think we're thrashed this one nearly to death. Do we just let the matter drop and hopefully things will continue as they have done for the last 35 years?
Sorry, I propose that, Chairman.
Right, it's been proposed by Stuart that we let the whole matter drop, we move on. There wasn't no decision. So, yeah,
well, did Stuart propose it?
Well, as I say, if there's no further action, we don't even need to vote on it, do we, really?
Okay.
It would be good if we did, though.
Okay, proposed by Stuart for no further action, seconded by Warren. All those in favour of no further action, magazine? Yeah, let's, those against the proposal? Any abstentions?
Me.
And one abstention. Right.